Welcome to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. I interview incredible people who've dedicated their lives to helping those who've been impacted by trauma. A big thank you to our sponsors and our guests who are supporting this show. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have back Richard Taite. Richard, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Richard is the founder and executive chairman of Carrera Treatment, Wellness, and Spa, executive chairman of One Method Treatment Centers, and the former founder of Cliffside Malibu, which he sold in 2018. A leading figure in the addiction treatment industry for over a decade, Richard has built a career dedicated to helping people reclaim their lives from substance use and mental health challenges. He's also the host of We're Out of Time, podcast currently ranked number 3 in Apple's mental health category.
Check it again. Check it again.
What is it?
Number 1 this morning.
Number 1 shot where he explores. Congratulations.
Sure, because I was pissed off, that it wasn't number 1 for like 2 weeks and I just didn't understand it. So we did a little work and it's back to number 1. Sorry.
Congratulations. No worries. Where he explores urgent issues around treatment recovery and wellness. All right. So you've been on the podcast before, excuse me, where we dove into your background, your story, which is really inspiring for obvious reasons. But, you know, as I was listening back on that, I'm wondering what the hell keeps you going? And I mean specifically.
Well, look, it's twofold, right? I mean, I can, if I think I've said this, and I don't mean, it sounds uncool when I say it, but, if you're one of the best in the world at giving people back your loved ones, or their loved ones, and you don't do it, you're a dick, So even though I didn't have to come back to work, I'm a dad. I mean, is there anything more esteemable than giving a father and a mother back their child, right? That's rhetorical. So, look, I'm 59 years old. I ain't 89, right? So I gotta do something, and this is what I do. And it doesn't matter if I like it or not, right? It doesn't matter if I want to do it or not. What matters is it needs doing, right? And so you do it.
Right. But there's what I'm interested in really is the thread or the bridge between what needs to be done from your definition and how you get up, someone with your past, with your history, with your trauma, with the addiction behind you. Is that something you have to dredge through every day? Are you still struggling? I mean, to the degree that we're all struggling, right?
No, I know what you're saying. Listen, I just wrote a book about transcendence, okay? Addiction doesn't have any hold on me whatsoever, okay? This is something you can transcend, okay? And all I'm saying is, when I say transcendence from drug addiction and alcoholism it's just not who I am anymore, right? So for example, when I have a glass of wine, right? If I start to feel it, what I do is I push the wine across the table and I go, that feels nice. Well, what does the alcoholic do? The alcoholic, Rich, says, oh, if that feels good, more feels better, right? I don't have that note anymore. So, yeah, that's it.
Tell us about transcendence. How did that come about?
Well, transcendence comes about if you do the work, right? So I'm in therapy 3 times a week. I've been in therapy a minimum of 3 times a week for 20 years, okay? I sold the finest clinical team in human history, okay? I mean, you can't walk out of that past with no talent and no skill. That's impossible. I mean, I'd have to be brain dead, right? So,
Right.
right? So if you do the work and you not just I tried, I'm working on it. None of that bullshit. I'm talking about if you do the work, okay, then and I'm not saying you got to paint my house or dig a ditch. I'm just talking about being cracked open and honest and with a desire to make change, to change your bad behaviors and replace them with good ones, right? That's what I'm talking about. Got it?
Oh yeah, I got it. And what did you need to change? What have you changed?
Well, I mean, look, first thing that happened to me was, in early sobriety, I had a child and I was always in therapy. But while we were pregnant, um, I really worked on what it's like for that new chapter in my life, right? And so I always say that you can't stay sober unless you replace what used to be most valuable, which was your using, right, with something of equal or more value. Okay? And for me, equal or more value was living like an elegant man, right? Finding a woman that I'd want to have children with and having a child. So once I had a child, right, that's the first step in, oh, that's no longer who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have the tools that you've been working on that entire time, it's just an evolution. And then you have little baby steps like that in your life, little wins, little wins, little wins, little wins, right? And they accumulate and with time and consistency, right? You change. Let me ask you a question. What are you, 55?
62.
You're 62. Okay. You the same guy at 62 that you were at 42?
No, of course
Of
not.
course not.
Right.
Okay. So at a certain point, if you're living your, if you try to live a life where you're striving to be your best self, and that's the goal to live your best life, okay, this is what happens. You transcend for most, I'm sorry, for some.
Right.
Okay. It's not, look, when somebody goes to an AA meeting, okay, and they leave in AA, they always tell you, oh, those people are out dying. Okay. They're not. Some of them are, but some of them have graduated and are now living their lives, not labeled as a sick person for the rest of their lives. Now, that was a speed bump and they're moving on and they're thriving.
I think, Richard, the one of the things that really intrigues me and inspires me about you is you I mean, maybe not unlike everyone, but you seem to be a mixture of certainly the degradation, this kind of life that you were leading, but also this inspired person, this struggle, right? This need to help
Mm-hmm.
mixed with this addiction, living in these hotels. But I'm really curious, what was the switch for you?
It's never one thing. Okay. People that tell you, I mean, some people have a specific event, but for me, it was that life of using is exhausting. It's exhausting. Think about it. You're up for on average 6 to 8 days at a time, eating a Big Mac once a week to keep yourself alive. Okay. I mean, you've broken all your teeth because you got that cocaine clamp down. Okay. I was a buck 47, dripping wet, gray. Okay. I mean, I was out of money. I was homeless for a little bit. It's like enough. It's exhausting. You get older, it's exhausting. And when you run out of money, that's the worst. That's the worst. Detoxing with no way to go, with nowhere to go, the worst.
I started off asking you about transcendence. How did this book come about?
Well, there's a book called Changing for Good by Dr. James Prochaska and uh, uh, Dr. De Clemente and Dr. Norcross. And they actually figured out how human beings change their behaviors. Okay. It's called the Trans Theoretical Model of Behavior Change. And he wrote this book, and I'm reading it, and I don't understand it. It's so heady. So I take this book to my therapist, John, and I'm like, we're going to read this book line by line, and you're going to tell me what the hell this means. Okay. And so we'd read the first paragraph, and he'd say, that means dot, dot, dot. I'm like, why didn't he say that? Right. And we did this for the entire book. Now, I was irate. And the reason I was irate is because, you know, I'm not I'm not unsophisticated when it comes to therapy. And the fact that I don't understand something because it's so academic and so heady just infuriated me, because it's like mental masturbation. These academics get together and they go to their cocktail parties and they pontificate about this bullshit and that bullshit. And they've never conveyed it to anybody because the people on the ground, the therapists, have no chance of understanding what the hell they wrote.
Right.
Right? So I wrote the book for dummies. I just wrote the book over for dummies. And then I sent it to Dr. Prochaska, and I said, hey, my name's Richard Tate. I got sober. My therapist used your stages of change to move me through them into recovery. And I wrote this book. Uh, um, and I want to know if I got any of it right, any of it wrong, because I don't want to put out your work, okay, if it's wrong. Um, but nobody can understand your shit, so I had to do it. That's basically what I told him. And so 6 weeks later, he wrote me back and he said, this is beautiful. Okay. He said, can I write a blurb for you? And I said, if you do it on the cover. And he said, yeah. So that was my first book. And I called it, what was Ending Addiction for Good. Right. And, but I didn't talk about transcendence. I talked about the first 5 stages, but I
Which
didn't
are
talk
what? Just for our listeners briefly. We're talking
what are
about
the
the stages
stages?
of change. Yeah.
Okay. There's pre-contemplation, contemplation, pre-action, action, maintenance, and transcendence. Okay. And they go through various stages. Like the first one is complete denial. I don't have a problem. Okay. All the way to action, coming into a treatment center and taking, doing the work, and then maintenance, which is aftercare and living the right way and getting little wins, uh, uh, making certain that the discipline and the patterns stay, right, that you're consistent every day, so that the neuroplasticity will start working, and
Mm-hmm.
everything becomes habitual. Bad behaviors become habitual, good behaviors become habitual. But the reason I talked about transcendence this time, well, let's go back. The reason I didn't talk about transcendence last time is because I didn't want to kill anybody. Okay? Because everybody thinks, oh, I'm the one that transcends. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I didn't transcend this thing until I had 16 years sober. Okay? And I work in recovery all day long and help whoever I can. You newcomer, you don't need to know about transcendence right now. That's only going to hurt you. But after I sold Cliffside, I had a different life. And I had transcended it. And I wanted to write a book about thriving in the world, not just getting sober. I wanted to write a book about thriving, because that's why the hell you get sober in the first place, to live a life that, well, that's why I got sober. I want to
Mm-hmm.
live a life that I can be proud of.
Is this attainable for everyone?
Of course it is. Of course it is. All you have to do is humble. Look, people go, I want to go to therapy. Shut up. Therapy isn't something you have to do, it's something you get to do. It's the ultimate luxury. It is. It's the ultimate luxury. It's how elegant men and women deal with their stressors. That's it. The end. Okay? So, if you're doing that, okay, with a desire to be your best self, this shit happens naturally, but it happens when it happens. Okay? And here's how you tell. If you're thinking about that glass of wine, then you haven't transcended. I don't think about it.
Not
I've
even
had
there.
5 glasses of wine in the last 12 months. Okay? I don't think about it. Oh, I'm going to go out and have a nice bottle of wine. The second I start thinking about that, I'll never drink again because I know better. Okay? But if you're not thinking about it and you're at dinner and somebody wants to order a bottle of wine, okay, and then they top you off, who gives a shit? It's fine. Okay, for me,
Right.
not for most. Okay? But isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal, to where it's not calling you all the time and you're not struggling and it's effortless? That's the goal. And you can get there. Okay? There is no disease. The disease model is horseshit. There is no disease. Where's the disease agent? Where's the tumor? Where's the virus? Where is it? It's stupid.
Why is it stupid?
Because it's a bunch of jerk offs at the DSM getting around in a circle, talking a bunch of shit that they don't know about, and then creating something just for billing purposes. That's what these things are for. They're for billing codes. Okay? And, every time they want to bill for something, they create a new disease.
One
That's
of
what this
the,
is.
as I'm sure you know, one of the thoughts on the disease model is, or the critical criticisms, is that it takes the onus, takes the ownership off of the individual, right? It's a disease. Essentially, it's not.
Okay. Listen, you're getting into the, okay. Listen, this is why they changed the terminology from drug addiction and alcoholism to substance use disorder. Okay? Who did that help? Tell me. Who did it help? It doesn't help not to tell the addict the truth. Okay? Clarity is power. Dude, you're a drug addict and an
Right.
alcoholic, and that's okay because this is a speed bump. But let me tell you the truth, because I didn't lose 2.5 decades to substance use disorder. Okay? I was a drug addict. And if somebody would have said, oh, you get substance use disorder, okay, it's like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad. Being a drug addict sucks.
Right.
Okay? So just tell people the truth. Okay? They made it soft. They soft pedaled it for what? Because somebody doesn't want to be rigorously honest with where they are in their arc of life? Who are they protecting? Whose feelings were they protecting?
So, how does your philosophy, your outlook, this outlook that we're talking about, that you're expressing right now, how does this translate into your program?
Well, look, I believe that everything starts with a baseline or a foundation of love. That's it. Okay, so let me tell you what I mean by that. So we don't have people here at Carrera or One Method, okay, that is desensitized to the process of helping another human being. There's another way to say that. If you lost the love, you're gone, because this is a love call, okay? People get to treatment, okay, broken, destroyed,
Right.
shame-based, okay? And a lot of these people do the tough love thing, even when they say they know, okay? Some of the staff members, the whole thing, because the training isn't there, okay? Here, let me give you an example.
Yep.
30 people, 31 people left within a few weeks of me opening, wanting to open Carrera. I didn't even open it yet. And so 31 people came from Cliffside to join me at Carrera. 10 in 1 hour. Must have felt like the end of a Godfather movie. Okay. But then, we grew, and we needed more than just our 31, right? So people would come to me and they'd say, Rich, I need help. Can you hire me somebody? I'd be like, no. And they're like, but Rich, I need the help. And I'm like, good. You hire the person. You know who the good souls are in this industry. You know who our people are with the good souls. Okay? You're responsible for them. So the first 100 people at our center were by invitation only, just the lovers. Okay? Yeah, great qualifications, 10, 20, and sometimes 30,000 hours of treatment experience.
Mm-hmm.
But they never lost the love. They'll take a call in the middle of the night. They'll get in their bathrobe and go straight to the center. Okay? Because that's what it takes when you're in treatment and you're doing it the right way. You do whatever it takes. That is what our place is about.
When potential clients come to you, is there some type of a screening process? How do you make people understand what they're walking into?
Well, not everybody gets to go to Carrera. Okay, we only have 18 beds. Okay, so we probably market to 1/10 of 1% of people in the country. Okay, so financially, it's prohibitive for a lot, but it ain't just finances.
Right.
Okay, we've walked in. I've had people who are just abusive. Okay, and we knew we're going to upset the apple cart, and we couldn't admit them. That happens sometimes because we love our clientele, right? And in one apple can ruin the whole barrel for
Mm-hmm.
everybody, right? So I know that wasn't the saying, but I did my best. Um, yeah, and so that's it. Listen. You want to hear the funniest story? The funniest story is one royal family wanted one of the guys to come here and take over one whole house, 6 beds, so he wasn't bothered. And the only condition he had was he wanted to bring his cats. I don't do cats. That was a fortune lost. Okay, but I don't do cats. Not everybody gets to come to Carrera, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay, we make certain that you got to make certain that the people mix. You got to do the best you can. Okay, it doesn't always work, but most of the time we can get it right.
Right. With all that being equal, though, if someone walks in, are you assessing for their readiness? Are you assessing for
No,
their
because there's only two types of people that come to treatment: the people to get the heat off, that want to take the heat off, right? And the ones that want to get well. What is the heat off? The heat off is, I don't want my wife to leave me. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to go to jail. I don't, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't really want to get well. So I don't care about what their readiness is. We take, half those people will stay sober. So, when people say, no, you have to want to get sober, that statement has killed more people than anything. Okay, you don't need to get sober because you don't need to want to get sober. And the reason I know that for sure is because there's only two types of people that come to treatment, and 50% of them, and it's about 50-50, and the 50% that have no intention of getting sober, about half of those people end up getting sober. So I know for a fact that's the way it works because it's not anecdotal, it's field research at this point, right?
So help me understand that you don't need to want to get sober.
No,
You just
no,
need to walk through the door.
that's right. Now, Here's the good part. Doesn't work for everybody. Okay, it works for us. Let me tell you why it works for us. The reason it works for us is when you come in during your detox process, whether it's 3, 5 days, whatever it is, you're going through that detox process and you're being monitored by everybody. Notes are being taken. And the therapists behind the scene are fighting for you. What does that mean? That means they're in clinical meetings, right? And one of my therapists will say, well, I think I should treat Bobby because of this thing. And I got him on that. And then this other therapist will say, no, 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 I get him. And the reason I get him is because of XYZ, right? And so they literally fight to get the client. And they sit, but it's got to be consensus, right? So they
Right.
sit. In other words, I'm talking about there. We spend more time doing that, probably between 10 and 20 hours of that. We spend more time just figuring out who the best therapist is for this particular client than most places spend treating the client itself. That's never been done before. Okay. So when you have that type of setup, okay, you get better results
What
because it's
drives? What
intentional.
drives?
Because it's
What drives?
intentional, right?
It's intentional. Let's go back to love. I mean, everyone knows what love is, but what does that look like in practice? You
That's
said you've
great.
got to have the love. What does
Okay.
that mean?
Okay. Well, what does that mean? What that means is somebody is walking into treatment, and the first thing they have to do is this. Okay, I can hang out here a little bit. Okay. They feel safe. That's the first thing. Okay. Then they have to feel supported, right? So a drug addict or an alcoholic, someone with substance use disorder will walk in, okay, completely shame based, but also distrusting, right? They've been to other treatment centers. They know it's about the money, all this bullshit, right? And they're not wrong. But then they come here, and alcoholics and drug addicts are very, very smart people. We are extremely talented when we get sober. But we know we've got a bullshit radar. And so if it's not true, if it's not authentic, we know it immediately. So, what does support look like? Okay. Anytime someone has a problem, you have a therapist come to him immediately so that he doesn't sit with this discomfort without being able to process it and get to the other side of it quickly. That's not done.
Hmm.
That's not done. That's why nobody leaves, okay? Because they're contained in a cocoon. Listen, I just went to the center the other day and I'm watching somebody ask for, I was just visiting some friends, not working, not doing anything. Just, I can't, I live in Puerto Rico and I came in to LA and I want to see my friends, right? So a lot of them work at the center. So I go to see it and I witness this guy at the last minute ask for something totally different for the chef, okay, to eat. And the chef said, absolutely, without without now I know that happens because I tell people that happens, but this was as it's being served and he put it all out and then he went and made him a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just felt really good about it. That felt loving to me. That's not something that would be done at any center. But what I really loved was the therapists who ate with the clients and sat there and didn't go into their offices and actually processed with the clients what
Mm.
they're doing and what's going on. But then I noticed something. I noticed my therapist taking her plate, but taking other people's plates and stacking them and taking it. And everybody said, thank you. Now, this is probably the single most sought after therapist in our industry. There's not anybody who wouldn't hire her to be their clinical director. I can promise you that. But she has the heart of a servant, and she does it joyfully. And when you do, and so do I. So when you do that from the top down, it filters into the rest of the organization, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
understand that you have to do this thing with the heart of a servant, joyfully. It's their turn. We had a turn.
Hmm.
It's their turn. And now
There
we,
being the client, the
that's
client's
correct.
the client's
That is
turn for what? To receive what? To be
to
loved?
receive the love. We received
Wow.
the love when we got sober. They're going to receive the love here today, and we're going to hold them and make certain that they're okay in the world. And
Wow.
all they got to do is be open and honest. What a deal.
Jesus.
What a
How
deal.
do you how come on, Richard? You speak about this. I don't know if you do. It comes across as you speak about this like this is the way to do. How did you get to this point where you're sitting here where that is the ingredient? That's the nurturing that's needed to do this work.
Because just because things were done a certain way for a long time doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. Better is better.
Right.
Okay. And I don't care how other people do their things. I'll try anything. And I've tried everything. Okay. Better's better.
When did you experience that love?
When did
In
I
th-
experience the
in
love?
that setting when you was like this is freaking what I've needed.
I never had a treatment experience. I never went to rehab. I went to sober living where I felt the love there. Okay. Ended up buying that sober living. And then I ended up giving it back to them after I made it perfect. Um, but I had sober living, therapy, and AA. And that's as well as other things. And that's the program primarily that I made for myself by accident. I just knew that that's what I needed to do. That's it.
Was there love sprinkled throughout that?
I felt the love in all of it.
Okay.
I felt the love in all of it. I got really lucky. I ended up at a sober living where I'm still friends with a bunch of guys that I went to sober living with. Very close still with one of them. Um, I felt the love with my therapist, Margie. She was wonderful. And I've been with John now for 18 years, right? Best in the world. Feel the love there. I felt the love in AA when I went to AA. You know, you go to AA, they're taught to love the newcomer right away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt the love. So, and that was important for me. And that was the reason that I created what I call a love call, right? I needed to be loved. Look, the reason why alcoholics and drug addicts don't feel love is because they're not known. In order to be loved, you have to be known, right? If they don't know, if you're not willing to show someone authentically who you are, then you can never receive love because you haven't
Mm-hmm.
showed anybody who you are. And because if you did, they wouldn't love you. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't take that in ever, right?
Well,
There's
yeah.
simple things that you can do over 20 years that you've been in this industry that you learn. And, uh, and like I said, I was on a talk show and some doctor says, yeah, but you're not a doctor, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, and he says, and this is anecdotal. And I'm like, no, dude. It ain't anecdotal. When you give 10,000 people back their loved ones, and you've been doing this 20 years, that's called field research. I'm the guy the data's based on. Okay? No smart ass remark for that.
All right, Richard. You know what? One of the reasons why I love talking to you is obviously you're no BS, but to hear you speaking about the power, the necessity of love is vital today. Not just in addiction treatment or recovery treatment, but in our world.
We starve for human touch, to be known, for community. We're starving for it.
Yep.
We're starving for it.
Yep.
Today.
Yeah. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart and your compassion in this field. It's an inspiration.
Thanks, man. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, the only thing I care about this time around, okay, and it's the only reason I do this type of stuff, okay, is to beg parents to have the fentanyl conversation with their children so that they don't have to deal with the unconscionable pain of losing a child. That's why I do these things, okay? And if you've got a kid or a wife or a husband who's doing drugs right now, even if they're doing it pills with the pharmacy, the second they get cut off, man, they're going to be looking.
Right.
They're going to go to the street. They're going to find a friend who can figure that out for them, okay? And, you know, the stats are between 40 and 70%. You get different figures all the time that these pills and powders are laced with fentanyl on the street. You know, that's if this is the world you're living in, you got to send your kid to treatment or your loved one to treatment now. Now, I'm not talking about for pot or a little drinking, okay? Then you go to the therapist and you work from there, okay? But a powder or a pill, no. There is no discussion. There is no debate. We're not going to talk about it. Get in the damn car. We're going to treatment, okay? And that's it, the end, okay? It's got to be that way, folks. It's got to be that way. Otherwise, the pain is so great that if I think about it, I'll fall apart, okay?
All right, Richard, how do people learn more about you and what you're doing?
You can always call Carrera Treatment, Wellness, and Spa. That's CARRARA. If you have a problem, if we can't help you or send you to one of our affordable treatment centers, we will find a place for you, okay? We don't ever want anybody to think because they can't afford it, we don't care about them or we don't want to help them. Your options aren't going to be great, okay? But we got options.
Okay. And the podcast number 1
Right.
in Apple.
It's called We're Out of Time with
Okay.
Richard Tate. It's the type of thing you want to watch, not listen to, really.
Okay. We'll have that linked up here at the show notes page at traumatherapistpodcast.com. Richard, always great having you on here. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
All right, man. Take care.